Hi, and welcome to this series about how to meditate and beginner's guide to meditation. I'm really excited to share this with you. My name is Karen McMullen, if we haven't met, and in today's video I'll share my journey of how I learned to meditate, and in the upcoming videos I am sharing how to meditate and teaching you how to meditate so that you can really adapt this practice, meaning that you can make it your own and find your way with it, but also adopt this practice into your daily life and take it on as an ongoing part of your well-being. Because if there was one thing that I would recommend for all humans everywhere for their well-being and their spiritual life, it would be that they learn to meditate. So I'll be sharing new videos with you every month about meditation and different guided meditations. We're going to start with the basics and move through a progression and make sure that we all have a solid foundation with what meditation really is and how to do it. So before we get into our first meditation class and lesson, I would love to share with you a little bit about my journey of how I became a meditator. These days, meditation is an important part of my life. I am a channel, so I channeled this book, Alchemy of Consciousness. I also am channeling a second book called Awaken to Your Starseed Mission. The gift of channeling is something that came to me in meditation as a surprise. I just started hearing a voice and then wrote this really quite incredible, beautiful book. These days I channel the Council of Light, who are beautiful high consciousness beings that are specifically interested in helping us to embody our unique purpose. And so, for example, when I do a reading for someone, a channeled reading, I get messages about, who are they really? What's the energetic signature of their essence? And then how can they bring that forward in practical action in their life? But it definitely was not always easy for me to meditate. When I was in my 20s, I was super high energy. I, for example, didn't even like to walk places. I would ride my bike, or I would run, or I would drive, but I didn't like anything slow paced. I was always arriving late to things because I hated waiting and just sitting there and doing nothing. That was like torture for me because I just had such a revved up nervous system, and I was just so full of energy that I could not relax. But my curiosity got piqued about meditation when I did my coaching training in my 20s with Gay and Katie Hendricks, and they are psychologists who basically created this really beautiful system for body-centered coaching and how to create relationship harmony. And they've really built an empire. They've written a lot of books, they had a huge following, and they were attracting really amazing people to work with them. They have such a beautiful, authentic way about them, and their whole life and their work and everything that they were doing just seemed so simple and elegant and effortless and easeful. And they seemed really relaxed and on purpose. And they shared that one of their core skills or abilities that was leading to all of this success with ease was that they had learned transcendental meditation. Transcendental meditation is a form of meditation that was taught by a man named Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who came from India and to the West, and he taught people, a lot of students in the 60s and 70s, how to meditate using this specific technique. And so, Gay and Katie were some of those people that learned this form of meditation, along with the Beatles and a bunch of celebrities. And many years later, they were still doing this specific technique. And so that kind of piqued my interest. And then some years later, I was working at this pie company, Wanda's Pie in the Sky in Toronto, a really successful pie company made by this very creative woman. And she shared that she was also a TM meditator, and that was an essential part of how she was able to build such a successful business and how to kind of manage the stress and get inspiration. So again, that tweaked my interest. years later, but then I still wasn't motivated to meditate. And then years later, I lived in this condo. I bought myself a co-op apartment in this small building. And the man who lived across the hallway from me was named Michael. He was a British ancestry man, and he would wear these like pastel colored cashmere little sweaters and loafers, and had a really quiet, peaceful way about him. And it turns out that he was a TM monk for over 30 years. He had gone with Maharishi, and basically Maharishi had a small group of people who were devoted to meditating like 8 hours a day, and they would go to specific places in the world and meditate together, and they were doing experiments like trying to levitate, and basically he was experimenting with consciousness with a small group of really devoted people, and Michael was one of them. And so here I was living with this meditation guru, and his official ability to teach TM had expired because they had revamped the training, and he didn't really want to bother with recertifying. And so that sounded perfect for me. So I ended up learning black market TM from Michael. So I practiced TM for several years, and then really learned how to quiet my mind from doing that specific technique. And then since then, I've moved in my own direction with my meditation. I did create the success that I wanted, and I built a 6-figure coaching business, which I maintained for many years, but I actually found it quite stressful. And so eventually what ended up happening was I left my business success behind, and I moved to Mexico in search of enlightenment, because what I saw was that there wasn't, what I was hoping for was salvation from the material success. But when I got the material success that I wanted, I didn't find that it was actually satisfying. And so then I looked to find satisfaction in the spiritual. And I went and I lived on the side of a mountain alone, like a monk, meditating, or I guess a nun, for hours and hours a day, working with a spiritual teacher who was guiding me in contemplations that were specifically designed to help me dismantle my ego identity and to dissolve the separate self and move into an awareness of oneness consciousness. So I was doing that work for many years. And in that time, I also became a yoga teacher. And that was quite interesting because I had always done yoga since I was a teenager. But mostly just because I was so physically active and agitated that I just needed that kind of exercise outlet. And it wasn't until I did the yoga teacher training that I realized that yoga is actually a system designed to bring you from that separate self into the state of oneness. And the word yoga means union, and coming into that state of awareness of oneness consciousness, and that you're not actually your separate personality self, you are all that is. Yoga has this beautiful text called the Yoga Sutras, which is one of the most ancient yogic texts. And the second Yoga Sutra, basically a sutra is just a short sentence. And the second Yoga Sutra is Yoga Chitti Vritti Nirodha, which means yoga, or the union, arises with the cessation of the patterning of the mind. So if you think about it, your mind is like a whole bunch of ways of thinking. Like maybe you're obsessed with building success like I was, or finding love, or having the perfect body, or we all have our repetitive thoughts, or like, oh, am I good enough? Am I not good enough? All of these are patterns of consciousness. And when you allow those to dissolve, when the patterning of consciousness stops, you are in union. So yoga is actually a system of just allowing those grooved patterns of thinking to kind of dissolve. And the yoga asana practice, the movement, is part of that, but there are, other branches such as breath work and study and working with the mind and meditation. So meditation, the asana practice is actually geared towards meditation. And so I was really excited to discover the real purpose of yoga was actually a system for enlightenment, which is what I had been doing in all these years with the spiritual teacher, alone, doing all that contemplative work. And so I really found that yoga and the texts, the ancient texts of yoga, were marrying with the path that I had already been following all along. The other cool thing about what I discovered with yoga is just basically it's a system for purification. And so as you practice asana, you realize, I can't really drink when I'm doing asana, like it doesn't work well, or if I eat these kinds of heavy foods, then it affects my meditation. And gradually you just kind of start to want to shed all of those habits that keep you from God or from knowing your higher self and from having that source or God consciousness infusing through your whole being. So it's a system of purification, and it kind of works its own magic. And now that I've gone on this journey, one of the things for me personally that I'm learning now is just how to really be an ego self and a personality, and to take care of Karen, and not so much worried about merging with the divine, because I've really kind of gotten that one down more or less, and really how to bring that into me as a being, having a bank account and going to the grocery store and in relationship and all that stuff, and just being practical. So that's my journey with meditation, and I'm excited to share with you some different styles of meditation and different ways that you can go about it, so that you can really find your own way that works for you in your own personal life. And that's going to be different for everybody, and I really believe that we have to find our own way with this. And I look forward to being your guide and helping you find your way. You can find out more about me and my work on my website, karenmcmullen.ca. I also have a beautiful PDF for free on my website that you can get as a download when you sign up for my mailing list. And that is all about this current global grand reorganization. So I definitely invite you to check that out. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you again soon as we learn to meditate in the next video. Okay, bye.